Thank you, Mr. Rector. When I delivered commencement remarks yesterday to students in the College and Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, I shared a story about a British explorer named Sir Ernest Shackleton, who faced numerous challenges while attempting to cross Antarctica. Shackleton and his men overcame many of these daunting challenges because they had a singular defining quality: resilience. Today, I will speak again on the theme of resilience, and to begin with, I will share a different story about a different explorer, this one born in Albemarle County. This young man did not matriculate at UVA because UVA did not exist in his time. He was born in August 1774, just about exactly 244 years before most of you arrived on grounds. But if he had been born later, he would fit right in with you, the class of 2018, because he shared many of the qualities that you possess as individuals and as a class. He was intelligent, he was entrepreneurial, he was resourceful, he was fearless in the face of change. Meriwether Lewis was born just a few miles west of here. If you drive west on Route 250, you will soon come across a historical marker along the road that marks his birthplace. When Lewis was just 28 years old, the President of the United States, who would later on create this university, appointed him to lead the Corps of Discovery. Their mission was to explore the lands and rivers of the western part of the continent after the Louisiana Purchase. To prepare Lewis for the expedition, Thomas Jefferson sent him to Philadelphia for a crash course in all of the subjects thought to be necessary for the journey. Working with the nation's leading scholars, Lewis studied botany, zoology, celestial navigation, linguistics, map-making, medicine, and other fields. He spent the spring of 1803 preparing for the journey, experiencing the finest education in America. By the spring of 1804, his meticulous preparations were complete and the expedition got underway. But Lewis quickly ran into surprises and setbacks of all kinds. He met unexpected geographical barriers, broiling heat and sub-zero cold, treacherous waterfalls, and unfamiliar animal species, such as the massive grizzly bears who seemed to roam the West with impunity. These bears were noticeably larger and more antisocial than our easygoing black bears back here in Albemarle County. They had anger management issues. The point is this: in spite of his thorough preparation, Lewis encountered many surprises that he and his teachers had not anticipated. Therefore, in addition to his excellent education, one of his most critical assets was his aptitude for leadership. 4 years ago, we formed a new institute to equip students with leadership skills. We named it for Meriwether Lewis. 100 students have now served as Lewis Fellows since the program began in 2014. Among this weekend's graduating students, 24 students are Lewis Fellows. And over the years, they've had a lasting impact on UVA. They designed the new student space at 1515 University Avenue, where some of you might have had a burrito this morning. They created welcoming spaces for African American students. They worked together with the nursing school to focus on issues of student mental health, and they did many other things. As students at the University of Virginia, all of you have received a great education in a broad range of subjects from the nation's top scholars, just as Meriwether Lewis did in his day. And your education will remain valuable to you for the rest of your life. But also, just like Meriwether Lewis, you will encounter setbacks and surprises. Let's say your metaphorical grizzly bears in the real world after you graduate. So as you prepare for your journey, I want you to take with you two qualities that made Meriwether Lewis such a strong and effective leader. The first quality was curiosity. Meriwether Lewis didn't begin his formal education until he was a teenager, but from a young age he was deeply curious about the world around him. By venturing out to study the wildlife, both by day and by night, he developed a lifelong interest in natural history. This helped him to develop his skills as an outdoorsman and hunter, and those skills came in handy throughout his life. He was an observer and an analyst of what he observed. During Thomas Jefferson's presidency, Lewis served as his private secretary, and his curiosity led him into conversations with politicians, writers, artists, and great thinkers who came to visit the president. His curiosity became an instrument of lifelong learning. But later on, because he was willing to learn from others, particularly from the native tribes, and most especially his native guide Sacagawea, it saved his life. When he led the Corps of Discovery across the continent, curiosity was the driving force. In the winter of 1804, the Corps of Discovery took shelter in Fort Mandan, North Dakota, to wait out the weather. And in the spring, they embarked on the final surge of their quest, the search for a northwest passage to the Pacific Ocean. The land ahead of them was a vast, uncharted expanse. It was marked on their maps with a single word: unknown. At the moment of the journey when the fear of the unknown could have held Lewis back, curiosity about the unknown and the desire for the discovery drove him forward. Curiosity's been a driving force in your work as students, as you've explored unknown territories in your classrooms, labs, and studios. In your academic study, in your research and scholarship, in your creative work, you have ventured into the unknown. A second quality that Meriwether Lewis had and that all of you have is resilience. Several years after Lewis led the Corps of Discovery across the continent, Jefferson reflected on why he had chosen Lewis for the job. And this is what he said: "Of courage undaunted, possessing a firmness and perseverance of purpose which nothing but impossibilities could divert from its direction." And we could say the same thing about today's graduating class, a class with undaunted courage, perseverance, and a clear sense of purpose. And you faced more than your share of challenges along the way. Many of you entered UVA in the fall of 2014, and in your first semester you experienced the disappearance and death of second-year student Hannah Graham. The same semester, you lived through the difficult period that followed publication of a recklessly reported Rolling Stone article that was later retracted. Over the years, you've experienced other challenges and moments of crisis. 2 mistaken arrests of UVA students Martise Johnson and Elizabeth Daly by ABC officers, the detainment in North Korea of Otto Warmbier and his subsequent death, and the attack by protesters advocating white supremacy and anti-Semitism on our grounds last August. No snowflake could possibly experience and survive the heat you're currently experiencing. But let me just say for the record, in the glare of the national spotlight, you proved you were no snowflakes. You will need to take your resilience with you into the careers and communities you enter after today. In every field represented here, the rate of change and innovation is accelerating, and it will continue to speed up. McKinsey & Company published a report on the technologies that will have the most radical effect on the global economy in the years ahead. This list will be familiar to engineers. It includes advanced robots with human-like dexterity, next-generation genomics, autonomous vehicles, and other innovations. How will these technologies shape and define the future world of work? When we consider this, we tend to think it's only certain industries that will feel the impacts. So, for example, it's obvious that the proliferation of autonomous cars could dislocate millions of people working as professional drivers. But what about doctors and lawyers? Your professions and others are also being reshaped by new technologies in a constant flux of innovation. Until recently, it was difficult for robots, because of technological limitations, to perform surgeries involving soft tissue. But researchers have designed an autonomous robot that has components for precise sub-millimeter positioning, suturing, and 3D imaging, fully capable of soft tissue surgery with oversight from surgeons. Meanwhile, in the legal profession, tasks such as document review and the production of contracts are increasingly automated. No industry is immune from the transformational effects of innovation. And because of this, being adaptable and resilient will be essential for your success. Many of you have already demonstrated your resilience in your personal lives. For example, graduating today from the Frank Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy is Kim Johnson, who grew up in a tiny town in California, dropped out of college at age 19, served 20 years in the U.S. Marine Corps before returning to UVA to complete her degree. Graduating today from the Curry School of Education is Mike Marcella, who was diagnosed with a tumor on his spine as a teenager, recovered and became an elite runner in high school, and came to UVA as a member of the track team. During his second semester, Mike suffered a brain injury. He recovered and returned to running, and later broke the 4-minute mile. Graduating today from the School of Law is Joe Charlet, who was orphaned as a child, grew up on remote Hatteras Island in North Carolina, and later lived in foster care. At age 16, he pleaded in court to assume legal control for himself, and this experience got him interested in studying law, which led to his seat on the lawn today. Each one of you here today has your own story of resilience in the face of setbacks. This quality, when combined with the excellent education and the technical skills you've acquired here, will be essential as you begin your lives after graduation. As Thomas Jefferson prepared to send Meriwether Lewis forth with the Corps of Discovery, he said, "I have no hesitation in confiding the enterprise to him." Today, those of us sitting on this stage, and the faculty gathered here, and your parents and family members, we say the same thing about you. We have no hesitation in confiding this enterprise to you. In this case, the enterprise is a big one. It's your future, but it's also the future of our nation and our global society. Because of the excellent education you've gained on these grounds, and because of your commitment to the principles of self-governance, leadership, and service, you are exceedingly well prepared to embrace the enterprise before you. And even when you face setbacks and challenges, and you certainly will face them, just as you have faced challenges here during your time here, your curiosity and your resilience will drive you forward. And you carry our best wishes with you as you go.